quite old school.
Anubis. That's Anubis, right? Far left. Is that who? What are these figures behind you on the left? The statues.
This is Thoth.
Okay.
With, Isis or Set and the Green Man.
Okay. Okay. I thought that was Anubis. It's all good.
Anubis is.
Oh, you haven't. See, Anubis is the only one that I carry him with me. We're out of town right now, and I carry him with me. I usually have him with me when I do these shows, but I haven't unpacked him. Okay, let's see. We got some people in the house. Renee, my friend, Delia, Allison, Susan. 26 people in the house. So we've been getting suppressed a little bit. So if any of you wouldn't mind, and Sherwin, if you want to, I don't know if you want, if you want to, you can share it from my Facebook page to your page, if you like, or any page you want. But anyway, we have been getting suppressed. So if anybody that's listening out there in the community, if you would share it to your page or to one group, that'd be cool. Normally that's not an issue, but for some reason we've been getting hit. All right. What's up, Adam? Nice to see you. So yeah, we've been on the road for how many days? 2 or 3 days. And we're at our friend's house. Perfect. All right. That's what, Facebook, Todd Medina?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sharing it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we are at the Chanda. It's at
Sparkles.
Chanda Sparkles Studio. And our friend that lives in my hometown. So I'm actually in my hometown. So there's a lot of, and that all just happened. So, you know, there are no coincidences. So there's a lot of stuff aligning right now, including somebody says there's no sound. That's probably on your end. Everybody sound okay? Sherwin, you okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
We're good.
All right.
We're good. All right. Oh, he just took off. Okay.
Whew.
Yeah. Better?
All right. Yeah, I think so.
All right. So it's been over a year since we've talked.
Yeah.
Sherwin?
It was crazy.
Has it? Morgan says no, but I think it's been over a year.
Slightly less. I think it was
slightly less.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. March or something.
And you're in Malaysia, right?
Malaysia. Yeah. Still here.
You're in the dragon country.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I haven't seen a lot of dragons in the last few months. A couple times I've seen them. Seen Morgan turn into a dragon. But that's normal. So what's been happening with you? What's been going on? I mean, so much has happened, you know, since we talked last. If it's been a little less than a year, then we probably would have talked either right before or right after COVID-19, quarantines, masks, and all that stuff. Toilet paper runs.
Yeah, just as it started, I think.
That's right. I remember now. Yeah, I remember now. I was in Florida. That's right. I remember. Yeah. So so a lot's happened, obviously, you know, and I know this stuff is the narratives and the stories and, you know, all that stuff. And we know that energetically, that's really where the real meaning for everything is. Yeah. But tell us, first of all, it's good to see you. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for sharing space with us and getting up early and sharing.
It's not that early.
Oh, it's not.
Just nice. Yeah.
Just all right. But it's good to see you. It's really good to see you. And but yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but 2020 was like what, about 42 years in one?
Yeah.
2021's already been 30 and we're only 6 weeks into it. So what's been going on? I mean, where are you at? What's happening? What have you been through? Where are you at now? What do you think's coming? I mean, let's just jump into this.
Well, this year I've decided to scale it down. Last year it was the opposite because I moved everything online, classes and all that. So it was quite a big explosion, for lack of a better word, and managed to connect to many people around the world. So that was really, really awesome. But this year I just had the feeling to just bring the energies back a little bit. So I'm focusing more on like deeper work, going back into the alchemy, the Egyptian stuff, the Egyptian alchemy, but working with a slightly smaller group, but going deeper with them, and also for myself. So yeah, working on my second book as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Is that going to be in regard to the Egyptian alchemy?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, we haven't 2,600 shows. I think we're approaching 2,600, give or take a few days. But I can't remember actually going in depth on the Egyptian thing. I know it's been mentioned on shows, but so because I think the last 2 times that we talked, you were pretty much knee deep, neck deep into dragon energy, and other things too. But as far as now, what happened? Did the Egyptian energy come in and say, "Let's go to work"? Did something shift? Are the dragons still around? How did this go for you?
Actually, my core discipline is in Egyptian alchemy, not the dragons. So the dragons were something. Yeah, I just like connected along the way, and sometimes they come and sometimes they keep quiet. But I've always been rooted in Egyptian alchemy. I've been to Egypt like many times and brought many students there. So that is my home to me.
It is. Well, I went to your webpage. To your Facebook page, and I went through some of the pictures just to see, and you were in Egypt, right? I saw you in Egypt on some of I guess the ones that came up first. I don't know if they're the most recent pictures, but yeah, I have questions about Egypt. So let me just kind of give you a little backdrop. So, because I don't know a whole lot about it. So for me, there was this angelic thing that happened 10 years ago. I guess you would call it angelic, Jesus, Magdalene type thing. Then then I met an ET named Morgan Lee. So then it was the Galactic thing. Then there was the Atlantis and Lemuria.
Yeah.
But I distinctly remember a couple of things. One, I remember Morgan channeling one or two nights, and the Egyptian thing was brought up. And it was brought up in regard to, and I remember specifically what she said, what she channeled, which was, you guys, meaning all of us, are completing the work continuing or completing the work that was started that didn't complete in Egypt. And then the other thing that happened with me was I went to Sedona right before I met you. Go ahead. Yes, Hung Nguyen. It is your buddy Sherwin. He's on.
Sorry.
Hung Nguyen is on. Your number one fan. Hung Nguyen is on. Your number one fan.
Oh.
From Vancouver. No. So what I was going to tell you. So what I was going to tell you is that the only other thing I really had. Now I've seen Morgan kind of morph into an Egyptian princess on more than one occasion, Egyptian priestess on more than one occasion, and I've seen a couple other things here and there. But the crazy thing is, I went to Sedona for the first time in late 2018. Yeah, and the first day I got there, the first night I got there, I was in a friend's backyard, and I saw this dog man, run across the backyard. And then he squatted down, and I looked at him and I said, who are you? What's going on? And he said that he was a interdimensional being, and he was connected to Sirius. And he said, Anubis, right? So the next morning, a friend of mine that lives in Sedona, who I hadn't cooked up with at the time because I just got there, she calls me on the phone. She goes, "You're not going to believe what happened. I was in my house laying on the couch, and this dog man ran through my backyard," and it was Anubis. So on that trip, on the last night I was there 6 weeks later, I was walking down this dark street, and I heard this dog running at me. I could hear it, and it was coming so fast I couldn't move, and it came so close to me I could feel its breath on me, and then it turned away, and I knew it was Anubis. Anyway, I go back a second time, a third time, and had some really prolific experiences with Anubis. But that's been my only, that's been my only real interaction on a personal level, other than talking to people. What's the importance? What's the significance, the connection, the correlation of the Egyptian alchemy and the Egyptian part of our lineage?
I think it's a constant alchemy. It's always about the constant transmutation and evolution of the self. Really going deep inwards, shadow work and all that, which we are all very familiar with. But one thing that's a little bit more peculiar with alchemy is that it really, you can force the evolution, so it gets like extremely intense. And well, I guess it's a tool that they've left behind for us to keep going deeper and to just evolve. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's, people talk a lot about Atlantis, and they talk about Lemuria. Sometimes they might talk about Avalon, and then Egypt. And now that I'm sitting here talking to you, and I guess I'm being, I'm being reminded, but I can remember also having quite a few episodes, obviously, since I met Morgan, under the pyramids, in the pyramids. But I remember specifically a couple of years ago, Thoth, and being in the pyramid with Thoth and many figures or energies or entities that were similar to him, or at least looked similar. They weren't him, but there was a specific message. There was a golden liquid and golden coins, and Thoth was explaining to me about abundance and about alchemy and about, it was an energetic, it was metaphorically, it was gold coins and gold liquid, but energetically he was talking to me about alchemy. And I remember discussing this with Morgan a couple of times. But so obviously, Thoth, Anubis, Isis, and so on, they're a big part of our lineage, and I guess in terms of the linear timeline, they're the closest to us, aren't they? That would seem significant.
Maybe like I always look at it from a parallel perspective, so they're still there, but it's like a parallel, and they can cross over, like especially Anubis is the so-called guardian of the different realms and all that. So they cross over quite easily. So we are remembering how to work with the different timelines and all that. So at Atlantis, normally we look at Egypt as remnants or those who survived Atlantis. So they came over to Egypt and started to build and try to bring whatever they could from Atlantis after it collapsed, and establish the teachings, the energetics into Egypt as well. That's what the pyramids are for, and the Sphinx and all that.
So now you're starting to. I'm starting to remember some things, I guess, from my soul. But so the mystery schools, like Thoth, the Emerald Tablets, that's first of all, the mystery schools, at least in a contemporary linear aspect, those are the closest to us, or those were the first place that you heard about mystery schools. I mean, okay. And so, but the mystery schools, Thoth, and those that brought the information forward were actually from Atlantis. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they're all from Atlantis.
Yeah.
So mystery school. So each of the Neteru, or the so-called god and goddesses. Each of them have their own mystery schools, and so the function of each mystery school is to bring down that different lineage of teachings, which will affect and support different aspects of the world, or different aspects of humanity, because humans are complicated.
Hold on. Hang on. Let me just. Okay, let's see. Let me go back. All right. What I was going to ask you. Okay, I was doing two things at one time. Sorry about that. I'm still going through. You know, when you travel a lot and you're like two places at one time. So like for you, maybe we can go there. So like for you, I asked you. Your first book was about dragons, and I thought dragons were kind of your specialty, which it's not that they're not connected to you, but you're saying actually that Egyptian alchemy and Egyptian lineage and so on is really your main thing, right?
Yeah, I've been teaching it for more than 10 years.
So okay, how did that start for you? I mean, were you connecting to specific Egyptian deities, or energies? Was there specific information that came through in terms of what you were told and what you were told to do?
It started with I attended a class in Singapore with my friend, who's also my teacher, who was at that time teaching this healing modality, connecting to Isis and all that. So that was the big trigger for me. And 6 months later, I followed her group to Egypt, and everything started to resurface from there. So it is quite strange, especially in this part of the world, in Asia and Malaysia, for someone here to be doing, to be connecting with the Egyptian teachings and all that. So over here, people are still, well, I guess my students have gotten used to it. It's still like quite a funny thing. So it started when I.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything like that. I was going to say it's like Western civilization, or in the U.S., with dragons, right? I mean, it's not typical. It's not typical. Let's put it
not typical.
But I mean, like, so when you came across that course, was it more of a reminder, or was it the information itself that, were you picking up things, through the etheric threads, and that were like reminders, memories, stuff like that?
Both. So initially it was almost like a past life regression. So I could immediately see many past lives, and from there it's like, okay, you need to do this. So it's like step by step, and it just slowly grew from there. And it's one of those things where I knew that once I opened that door, then there will be no turning back, and that has really been the case. And so it is the most. It feels to me like when I'm back in Egypt, in all the different temples, it feels like the easiest, most natural thing to do for me, and I still get surprised myself, because it seems it boggles the mind.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Robert Sepper. He's Atlantean Gardens. Also under Robert Sepper. He's got 2 YouTube channels, several Facebook pages. He's an anthropologist and a etymologist and some other things. But he puts out some great work, really great work. It's very objective, very neutral, very fact-based. And I've been amazed going through his work with the connection from Egypt to so many different parts of the world, to include, for instance, there is a factually based, I want to say myth, but it's really not, because it's got a lot of facts around it, of a princess in Ireland that actually has Egyptian roots. Not to mention, we're talking skin color, eye color, hair color, where there's a cross. You think that, you think of Egypt and you think of, certain physical characteristics, or you think of Ireland, you think of certain characteristics or other parts of the world. But there's like this, almost like it's a super highway. To your knowledge, was there a lot of, let's just say, cultural, representation, species or ethnicities in Egypt?
Like on the historical level, I'm not too sure about it. But what I've seen so far is that a lot of the knowledge was deliberately like transmitted to different places in the world, and they were received very well as well. So it's almost like spontaneous downloads, across the different cultures. So there are so many similarities.
So, and you specifically said Egyptian alchemy.
Alchemy,
Why,
yeah.
why is that? Is because that to me sounds more like that's like more than just saying Atlantean culture or Lemurian culture, Egyptian culture. You know, Egyptian alchemy specifically. I mean, alchemy specific to the Egyptians. Is there a reason for that? Is it unique to the Egyptian culture?
Alchemy comes from Egypt. The word alchemy comes from the Arabic word alchemia, which comes from the Egyptian word alchemt. So Kemet is the old name for Egypt. It means black land. So literally, alchemy means the study of Egypt.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it means. Alchemy is a study of Egypt. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a connection in as far as you know? Is there a connection between like the Greeks, the Romans, let's say Hermes? Some of the you know where I'm going with it. Okay.
Yes. Those are continuations from Egypt. So after the end of the pharaohs, so some of that knowledge of the mystery schools, they actually went over to Greece and Rome, especially the so-called Isis cults, and also the Thoth mystery schools, which later became the Hermes and mystery schools. So it continued there.
And let's see. God, I forgot what I was going to say. I got a couple of questions here. In your opinion, why are... Well, let me just ask you this first. Have you had specific energies come to communicate with you that are Egyptian?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day.
Right. And are there certain ones that come that are more prominent in your experience?
For me, of course, it's Osiris and Horus. So a lot of that male alchemy transforming the wounded masculine and all that, which sometimes can be quite not the most fun thing.
What, the male, the wounded male trying to transform is not fun? Oh, you're kidding. I didn't know that. I'm just kidding. And you talked about how you kind of pulled things in this year, right? And how the groups you're working with are smaller. What about you? I mean, have you had to pull things into, because a lot of people have talked about how they've kind of gone quiet. Have you had to do that for yourself as well?
Definitely. I first have to do it in my own energy field before I can do it for my students. Yeah, so it has to be as we did, so without.
How big is the Helios Sacred Union? You know, how big is that in the Egyptian alchemy, in the Egyptian lineage?
It's huge. It's one of the I would say specializations of the Isis mystery school.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of that very important path, which is where Mary Magdalene and Christ comes from. Yeah.
And so, like from your perspective or your experience or understanding, what you've received, is, you know, people talk a lot about twins. Is there a twin for everyone? And if so, what is that? Is that some type of split soul, or is that two people who are reaching the same vibration in a certain space and time?
Are we talking about the twin flame?
Yes, a lot of people talk about the twins, twin flames, you know, whatever you want to call it.
Well, this is just my my understanding of it. Not every soul comes into their present lifetime or present incarnation with a twin flame. It's not. It may or may not be part of their soul contract. So for some souls, yes, they are. That means they are preparing themselves to meet that twin flame, and when they do finally meet, so it's really all about the work that they're going to offer the
Right.
world. So twin flame is never about the romance, or it's never about their not so much even for their personal individual development, because that is a given. So twin flame is about how to bring that flame of awareness and consciousness to the rest of the world. So it's really a lot of work. And when I say to prepare for it, it means that you have to really do your own like shadow work and all that to be a flame before you can find the twin. So I think there's a lot of romanticized projections going on with that. So it's not about. Well, of course, everyone has soulmates. Soulmates means people who come in and you activate each other's potential and challenge each other to grow and all that. That yes, everyone will meet their soulmates. But
Right.
twin flame is a slightly different thing. It's definitely not as romantic as how many people think it is. It is very, very intense work. And many twin flames, they really just, they live for the work, and that's it.
Yeah. To serve. Right. So it's basically one of multiple templates, and this one involves two people who bring a balance of to facilitate or to enhance their mission or their service in this particular space and time. Okay. And what, so as far as like as you were talking about with the mystery schools of Isis, Osiris, in terms of the work or the twins, you mentioned Magdalene, and what was the role or the reason for that during the Egyptian times? I mean, it must have been pretty important. I mean, I know I've heard stories and read stories in regard to, for instance, like a high priestess that would have Heliosgamos with kings to give to share the code and the wisdom with those kings and so on. But why was it such a prominent part of that civilization? And maybe it was in Lemuria, maybe it was in Atlantis, I don't know, but it always seems to be a big part of the Egyptian experience.
Oh yeah, that is a very big point that you brought up. Many people may not realize that the original the so-called royal lineage, or the pharaohs, was originally matrilineal. That means it comes through the maternal line, and it's not and it was the queen mother that has to choose who will be the next pharaoh or king, because she has to transmit all those codes and the secret initiations and activations to the king, so that he can serve the land and the people well. It was only in later when during the dynastic times that a lot of the teachings have been lost, so things started to really like fall apart, and then shit happened. So
I was always a slave in the palace in Egypt. I saw
really?
Morgan was a priestess, and I think we had some kind of thing going on, but I was always a slave. I don't know why. Maybe because I had big muscles. So yeah, that's really interesting. And the other thing about, if I look at, for instance, Robert Sepper's work and other archaeologists and anthropologists, there seems to be a very solid connection in Egypt from our ET star family. With the elongated heads, with the mystery schools, with some of the hieroglyphics and the art that depicts UFOs and other modern technology devices. Does any of that ring a bell? I mean, does that resonate with you? You know anything
For
about?
sure. For sure. Well, whether they were extraterrestrial or not, I'm not completely sure. But what I'm sure is that all the teachings definitely come from the stars, especially Sirius and all the different galactic energies, definitely from there. And it is said that all the temples of Egypt and that were built along the Nile they are deliberately built to reflect the Milky Way and the cosmos. Yeah. So
Yeah.
as above, so below. So like the
And
Nile is the Milky Way and so
yeah.
forth.
Yeah, I've seen some fascinating stuff on Robert Sippers, on his productions in regard to what you're talking about. Even like the development of the systems of measurement, which I think became foot or feet, you know, and so on and so on. But it's really really interesting, and it all came from that area of the Nile, and it all had to do with the seasons of the earth. You know, the flooding, when you grew the crops, when you pulled the crops. But you know, going back to what you do and the importance of the Egyptian civilization, which is a part of us, is it becoming? Do you feel like it's going to become more into our awareness? These types of things, because it seems to be the closest thing to us. You know, it seems to be and it also seems to be, in terms of our recent history, what's been held from us, what has been covered up the most.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yes, definitely, especially now onwards, as we enter the age of Aquarius, it's all coming back out full force. And that's perhaps also why a lot of the, like physically, we are going through that purification and forced to strengthen ourselves, forced to upgrade. So that is also really pushing the natural capacity of the human body. That's why the last year and this year is a challenge to the physical body, and all our organs are being like also pushed, or sometimes feels like it's pulled apart. But it's really just like how I look at it is a forced upgrade again before the essence or the blueprints really get released into the world. But definitely starting from this year, because all the planets realign to Aquarius, so that is the start of what we call in Egypt the start of Ma'at. The principle of cosmic balance is really starting to come back down into the earth. So hence the massive purification.
Yeah. And so you've been to Egypt a few times, right?
Yeah. 5 times.
5 times. Have you ever been into the Great Pyramid?
5 times.
Oh, all 5 times.
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple of people, and I've also read over the years, when I used to read a lot, some accounts of people that, for instance, there was a guy named Paul Brunton, who was a English mystic that studied with, the yogis and the fakirs and a few of the secret fraternities from the Far East. Anyway, he went over there in the 1920s, spent the night, I believe, in the King's Chamber. And he wrote about it, and it was literally scary. I mean, he wasn't hurt or anything, but the Hathors came in, and he had this incredible, I would call it a dimensional experience. And I remember reading about another guy, I think he was an archaeologist, who entered a small opening that just appeared, and he wrote about it, and he met some beings. Have you had anything crazy or anything out of the ordinary happen when you went to Egypt and the pyramids?
Yeah, the King's Chamber, it is, well, first of all, it's not a tomb like most people think it's a tomb, and no, it's not. It's an what we call an ascension chamber. So you go into this the King's Chamber. There is this stone sarcophagus there, which is not in this original place, but that's fine. It's been moved a few feet. But anyway, when you lie down inside, what it does is it pushes your call it your car body or your energy body out from your body, so you move into the different realms, or the parallel realms, or the so-called higher realms. And many people, and even many of my students, have had this experience, and I'm very happy about that. But it can be scary, because the first time I lay down in that little thing, not thinking much about it, because it looks like an old stone thing, so you don't think much about it. But the moment I laid down, everything started to spin like I was drunk, and I was like, oh my god, it's so based on my own experience, and so what I've seen with my students, that your consciousness gets pushed out from the body, and you just expand all the way out into the stars. So for those who are not prepared, then it can be quite scary. But for those who are grounded enough, then you can really, what we call, expand your consciousness and see what is beyond the thing. I think the movie Doctor Strange depicts this concept very well. It's like that.
I'm gonna have to watch that. I've heard about that. I'm gonna have to watch it. What is the Temple of Secrets? Do you know?
Temple of, yeah. So every each of the original temple, they are always they build secret chambers, and some of the secret chambers are not on the physical level, on the etheric level, so that only certain initiates who know how, or when your so-called vibration is vibrating at the right frequency, then you can access those secret temples where certain teachings would be, or certain things are revealed to you. In those, I think. So there are many layers, and protection layers, safekeeping of the initiations and the teachings in all the temples, and they're all different. So they all they all have different locking mechanisms and different codes and all that. So that when you go there as a tourist, so you will not encounter any of these, to keep the tourists safe. Although there have been common cases where tourists get stuck somewhere, or they just are never the same again, and so forth. But when we go there as initiates, then we can open up the different secret chambers, so to speak, and access different experiences in those places. So it is designed that way. So all the temples in Egypt are not really places of worship, but they're all different training grounds.
Yeah.
Schools.
In your opinion, can okay, just as anyone can access, let's just say, information in the Akashic record or in the infinite field, can that be done? Can a person seek out these different temples, these different these different mystery school aspects of the Egyptian lineage, or do they have to go there in person?
I feel it makes a difference when you're there in person, because the physical body gets transformed as well, and then the physical body will memorize the imprints, so you can bring it bring it out from the temples. And having said that, many people nowadays who have had strong connections of past lives in Egypt are really awakening. So they already have it. They've done it before many times in their past life. So yeah, it's just remembering that.
Now, what about with you? I mean, have you had one or two or three things that kind of stand out on a personal level, that where you've gone over there, the imprint was in the physicalities and otherwise, and you saw some type of shift, or some kind of dramatic shift or change or alteration in your life?
Yes, especially from my first initial trip, like 11 years ago. First, there was a purification, so a lot of things started to change in my own emotions, and I had problems with my spine right after that for a few months that could not be explained, and then just went away. So I understood that as part of a reconstruction of the spine, or all the spinal energies and all that. Severe back pain that there was a point that I couldn't even get out of bed. But thankfully, I kind of knew what was happening, so I wasn't too worried about it. And then after 3 months, it just went away. And so this was all part of the initiation and transformation process, which, well, the first thing I reclaimed was manifestation. So that has helped my work in the last 10 years a lot. So the ability to just bring things together fast and to ground it, to make things happen. So the last 10 years, really all my work that it has been driven by this Egyptian alchemy.
Yeah. Now, do you, when you're in your daily routine, when you're communicating connections and so on, are you getting information, school part of it, what to teach and what to share, or do you also get information either on a personal or collective level as to what's going on now and what should we be doing? Because obviously there's at least, in terms of the illusion, there's a lot of chaos going on, and distortion. But do you get that kind of intel, or is it strictly in regard to the mystery schools and what you're directed to teach?
Of course, I do get insights to what's happening out there, so that I don't have to worry about it, and I don't have to do anything about it, or if I should be contributing something to it or not. So definitely yes. It's as I know it's very cliche, but it's really just a huge purification of fire. Last year, this year is a purification of water. So we're going through that two huge elements. And so what happens is, so fire is about anger, that how if it's not purified, it comes out as anger. So this year is water, so there'll be a lot of despair, depression, and all that. So we'll go through that second phase. There is nothing, there's nothing much that we can do per se, but let it run its course. Of course, we can keep holding the prayer and intention for it to be a little bit smoother for everyone, and for people to have less fear and to just awaken to it, and also to continuously take back their power, to take back their accountability for their lives and for their physical body and all that, instead of constantly projecting all those fears around and just making things worse. And so all that's being flushed out, all the anger and all that.
Well, I mean, if we look at the the surface of Lemuria, Atlantis, and even Egypt, there seems to be some similarities. You know what I mean? There seems to be, like something that is bigger than us, that's going to cycle, that's going to cycle through no matter what. Yeah, we can, pray, we can appeal, and maybe we can make it a little bit smoother. But my question goes to, from your perspective, there obviously was, and maybe it was metaphoric, maybe not, but certainly in a literal basis, based on the history with the different, the different pharaoh, the pharaoh reigns and all that. There was a hierarchy. There was a hierarchy in Egypt. And yes, there was also some similarities in terms of the characteristics of the cyclical nature of the universe. Here, we're in this age now where there seems to be a deconstruction of the hierarchy and its creations happening. That seems to be different than Egypt. Does that make sense? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, yes. So back in the old days, humanity was still young, I would say, learning to expand their consciousness and all that. And right now it's different in the sense that humanity is no longer young. So we are, everyone is expected to establish their own, become a ruler of your own life, instead of waiting to be ruled upon or waiting to be told what to do. Does that make sense?
Right. Oh, yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. I was just curious because it's kind of ironic. I mean, the messages and the teachings from Egypt would lend to personal development. But the way it was structured, and again, like I said, it could just be metaphoric. It could just be the way it was set up, and not to look at the literal aspect of it so much, but to look at the energetic aspect of it. But it is interesting. Yeah. And I think also what I find very interesting too is and I don't know if you know anything about this, but I've seen, particularly in the continental United States, particularly in the Grand Canyon, and even around Sedona, I think I saw one piece Robert Sepper did on that, where there are Egyptian hieroglyphics in caves. Yeah. And there's other evidence too, archaeologically speaking, or anthropologists have cited that there, and I think some of it's linguistic, but there are. How the hell did that happen? How could you have Egypt way over there across, at least one major body of water, and then in the vast interior of a very large continent, you have the same hieroglyphics? I mean, was this done through the etherics, or was it a lot bigger civilization than we have given it credit to?
I'm not completely sure, but I've definitely seen the pictures of it. I think near Sedona, they found like carvings of Anubis, literally the same thing. So you're like very baffled. Well, I believe again, after the collapse of Atlantis, when all the different tribes and teachings split up, so some brought the teachings there, different parts of the world.
True. So you're saying that that would be one strong possibility, came out of Atlantis, and just maybe the bulk of it went over to Egypt, and some of it went into the continental U.S. That's far out. So what's the nature of the stuff that you're sharing with with the people that student under you? I mean, I know you're working with smaller groups, but I mean, is it new stuff? Is it old stuff? Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I mean, are you getting information that's pertinent to what's happening now, or important to what's happening now, or is this really about the personal transformation that each and every one of us are going through?
What we're doing now is connected to what we're going through as a collective now as well, because the energies have shifted. Like I said, more of the Aquarian energies. Therefore, deeper knowledge and different types of initiations have also resurfaced. So we're going through that, and also because of the changing of times now, more individuals are ready for that level of intensity and that level of crazy, and less afraid. Whereas if compared to, let's say, even 3-4 years ago, it would have been too difficult emotionally, or it may also have been detrimental to the physical body. So we always have this caution when we work with alchemy. You can't push certain things, if not, it will fry the internal organs, and you get like organ failure and all that, which I've seen it happen as well. So we have to be careful and not to force the energies too much, and always proceed with wisdom and love, and not to do it from the ego, because the consequences will be, will get fried.
I'm just curious, and there's no right or wrong answer, but I'm just curious because you've been doing this a long time, and you're very dedicated to it. You do it every day in a very deep way. People talk about, the energies or the team that's supporting us. You can call it guardian angels, galactic star family, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Is that us that we're talking to? Or do we have family or teams that are supporting us that are not in the physical?
Yes, that I truly believe. That probably we can, from the human mind, we look at it as a hierarchy. We have those like angels, archangels, ascended masters, and our ancestors from the light, and also the like animal spirit guides, or all that, the different layers that we are our soul is connected with. So is that a part of us? Definitely yes, but maybe from the human perspective, from the human experience, we may not be able to fully realize it yet.
Yeah.
But definitely in different aspects of our soul, different facets of the diamond.
Yeah.
Same diamond.
Yeah, that fits. It'd be like me and you. If we didn't have a body, we're still out there, and you're still there, and I'm here, but we're really one, and we know that. But we're at some level of dimension or whatever, where there's still there's oneness, but there's still some type of separation. Yeah, it's a little bit it's a little bit heady for us, right? Yeah.
I think the reason for that is so that the soul gains multiple perspectives faster, rather than just having one holistic perspective. So it splits itself into the different thousands of facets to gain experience, to gain a more interesting vantage point. Some is from above, some is from below, some is from within. So that's why we have the different aspects.
And then there's Anubis, who's everywhere for me anyway. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And what about, I mean, again, I mentioned earlier about the obvious chaos, even though I don't consider it chaos, but, you know, certainly a lot of our attention in the world is not, a significant amount of attention in the world is not focused on ourselves. It's focused on the virus. It's focused on election fraud and corruption and all this stuff going on in the world. But even with all that happening, you know, I don't know about you, but it seems like, and you mentioned 3 or 4 years ago, if this had happened, people's organs would have fried and so on and so on. How do you feel like we've done over the last 3 or 4 years? And how do you feel like we're headed? You know, what's our trajectory? What are our chances? What are our possibilities? You know, people talk about Atlantis, you know, and the technology was far ahead of the consciousness, and then we self-destructed, or, you know, things like that. How do you feel about the human hybrid soul species? You know, how have we progressed over the last 2 or 3 years, and how do you think we're going to do these next 2 or 3 years?
At this point, it's well, I would say this in regards to Atlantis. The moment we are ready as a whole, let's say if about 75-80% of our hearts are more open, then the awareness of Atlantis would definitely start to become more and more tangible. Yeah, but not yet. Not yet. We're not yet there. We're still fighting our old fears, and these are fears that have been imprinted for hundreds and hundreds of years, like many generations, that we are still, all of us, even those who are going through the so-called chaos, it's kind of like holding the space for all that old trauma to be to come out, to be acknowledged, and yeah, basically it's like an old infection that was forgotten, and now we're just giving it time to slowly come out to the surface, and that is the only way, because we have to let everything out to the surface. So when all this things come out to the surface, it manifests as chaos, because it is unpleasant and all that. So everyone is just clearing that out. Like when you clear a wound, you have to make sure there's no infection and no pus. So I always see that as like clearing out the pus right now. So after that is done, when things are a little bit more settled, emotionally we are more settled, then we can really look at what's happening on the heart level. Already a lot of this, people coming together because of this so-called pandemic and all that. People are coming together. Some are coming together out of fear, but there are also many people who are coming together out of, it's time to try something different, to experience something different, and all that. So it's very nice to see. And also, like recently, the thing with the stock market, that is a very good sign.
Yeah.
People coming together to just disrupt old systems that have been so-called accepted, but it's unhealthy. So I feel this year, especially the year of Aquarius, more disruptions are coming. So on one hand, disruptions always seem like terrible chaos. It's not comfortable, it's unpleasant and all that, but it's a very necessary disruption for things to really get better, in years to come.
And yeah, and what about the? I have to ask you this. I wasn't planning on asking you. I don't ever plan anything, but I didn't see myself asking you this. I think it's important though, because again, a lot of the energy from the individual, which makes the collective focus, is going to these narratives. Narratives of, is COVID real? Is it not real? And is it fair? Is it not fair to have masks? And was an election stolen or was it not? Is there white hats in the government that are going to save us? Is Jesus going to come down on a chariot with 2 lightning bolts and save us? I mean, all this stuff and the reason I bring this up is because there seems to be a herd mentality, like, hey, I'm on this wagon, come join my wagon, and this is the truth, and it has to be the truth. And how do you think those things serve us? Do they serve us? Are we going to have to exhaust all of the herd mentality, savior-based programming, and all that stuff? Are we going to have to get rid of all that and really look at ourselves and only ourselves in order to ascend? I mean, is there any other way? What's your opinion on that?
I feel you summed it up perfectly. So the answer is what I feel. Yes, it has to exhaust itself. So the human mind goes into a herd mentality when it feels threatened. So that means our survival mechanism is being triggered. Hence the toilet roll and all that is a very base chakra reaction.
Yeah,
so
wasn't
all
it?
this
that was a good
so
one.
all these visceral reactions, they have to come out because they have been suppressed for hundreds of years. So yeah. It looks ugly, but it has to be played. It can no longer be denied. And once all that is clear, then eventually our attention will go back to the self. It's like, how am I playing a part in this?
Right.
What do I need to do in my own life, in my own body, that will contribute, or at least stop making things worse? So gradually people are lighting up.
Yeah, I think so. It just amazes me that the level of separation and polarity, and the crazy thing is that separation is separation. So it doesn't matter if you're on the side with the good guys or the bad guys, because both of them are not exhibiting the energy of oneness. Period. And a lot of people think oneness is very from the Western civilization, very Jesus-esque, very fluffy love and light. It's not. It's everything. And it's refreshing to talk to you because you have a good perspective on it, and you're focused on your work. And I really think that that's where we all need to be. You know what I mean? Like what part of, not what part of the problem are you creating, but what is your part of the solution? What is your mission? What are you being called to do? And on that note, I wanted to ask you, I'm always curious about this because I've talked to so many different people. Some people have different clairs than other people. Some people hear things and some people see things. But I was just wondering, because of your tight connection with these Egyptian energies, what's your clair like? Do you see them? Do you hear them very clearly? Is it through images? I mean, I hear some people, which is more for me, some people will say, it feels like when I say it, it feels like I'm actually making it up. But I know I'm not making it up, because I'm getting it. Otherwise, why would I say it? Just like my experiences with Anubis in Sedona. I mean, why would I come up with Anubis out of the middle of nowhere? And why would these things happen? So there's definitely something going on there. But how does your communication work?
Oh, before that, I just want to address something about Anubis. So how you are truly embodying the divine function of Anubis. You are bridging the worlds, don't you see? That's like exactly what Anubis.
Explain it to me. Explain
Anubis,
it to me.
Is the gateway between light and dark, and he travels freely between all dimensions and all worlds, which is exactly like, it just occurred to me, like it's like what you're doing. You're bridging worlds, different opinions. Yeah, and it doesn't matter it's from the light or from the dark. You just making it happen. And I'm just looking at the background image that you have. It's really like it's interdimensional, and it's so Anubis. So I think that's why he has made himself known to you, because you are embodying that divine function. So all of the, what we call Neteru, which is the so-called god and goddesses, they're not exactly the god and goddesses, but they represent a special function that will serve the overall evolution of the world and humanity. So they're all, we call them actually divine principles. So
I actually wanted to, go ahead. I'm sorry, there was a lag. Go ahead.
Okay, so you are basically embodying the Anubis.
You know, the crazy thing is, I was going to ask you that, and I felt kind of weird to ask you that because I'm really not here to talk about myself, right? But it's so funny because when you were explaining that to me, I thought, oh, I was going to ask him that. Now he's answering the question. But the funny thing is, the last time that I saw Anubis was in 2019, I believe, or 2020. Anyway, so I was at a friend's house, me, Morgan, and a friend, and I was at a table, and it was dark outside, and we were like in a canyon. She lived kind of in a remote area, and I saw him, and when I had been seeing him, but he came in really strong, like right in front of my third eye, with these two red eyes looking at me, almost like he was trying to scare me. And I said, what do you, he goes, are you scared? I said, no. He said, get out of your chair and go walk to the back, like into the canyon. And I went, and there was this large animal, like what had to be as big as a bear or a horse, pacing back and forth, breathing really heavy. You can hear an animal that size. Anyway, so we had this thing, and we connected. We merged. We merged is what happened. And then all the dogs and the coyotes went off in the whole canyon at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I told Morgan about it. And when she heard all the dogs and the coyotes, she ran back. She goes, you did do something, didn't you? I said, I don't know. But the reason I was saying that is because of what you were saying. It's not about me, but it was about, it could be anybody, and it could be any divine essence, any aspect of ourselves, and the role that an individual has. But you're right. You know, I mean, no one's going to say, oh, here's proof for you, but we do know. Like, those things just don't happen. You know what I mean? I mean, so I appreciate you saying that and answer my question telepathically. So tell us about what you're doing before we get out of here. Tell us about what you're doing online, and you know, what that consists of, and how we can find you, and anything that you have coming up. But before that, anything you want to talk about before that, you have the floor, and it's all yours.
Sure. Just to respond to your previous question about the clair senses, I am more clairsentient, so I feel it in my gut, and it's just tuning into that feeling. And I'm also clair olfactant. I smell.
Okay. I can relate to that. It's
very like it's quite visceral, and it's also connected to all the shamanic work and all that, and it is very much connected to Anubis as well. So mainly that. So I'm not clairvoyant, almost not at all. So I don't see anything. Sometimes I hear a little bit. I mean, that's about it. So it's mostly that feeling that I have in the body. So what am I doing next? Nothing much. But do stay connected. I got my website running again. Thank goodness, after like down for so many years. So you can find me at
what's the name of it?
SherwinEng.com.
What's that?
SherwinEng.com. So SherwinNG.com. So it's the double N there. And you can find me there. So it's all that anyone would need to know or to stay in touch through Facebook or through our monthly newsletter. It will be there. And so I'm just preparing, still working with that same group of students. So they're being like torturing them every week with different tasks. So we have this.
You're torturing them? That's what I remember.
Stretches and all that. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. And you're going to stay in Malaysia for a while, huh?
Yeah. So we are in our pseudo lockdown again. I say pseudo because it's like the rules again are very funny, so we were like just laughing at it. Yeah, so doing a lot of online work and no plans for any like live like in-person classes, so it's everything online. I hope to do another full moon circle. I try to do one every month, like it will be a free circle for everyone to just meet and just tune into the full moon energies, and just to either like recalibrate or see whatever that arises. Yeah, I also work a lot with the moon cycles for some reason, and it has just been that way.
Cool. That's very cool. I remember hearing 10 years ago when I woke up, one of the things they told me that I didn't understand, and I still don't fully understand it now, but they said, watch the moon, like watch the moon. And I assumed that meant the cycles of the moon. And there has been, obviously that's not rocket science, but I mean, but there does seem to be a powerful, especially like the last, I want to say like the last year, there seems to be more, I don't know, like before that, to me, and it might just be my experience, there was a lot of up and down with the moon. But now there seems to be, it's almost like the sun, you know, it's like it's more of a, you know, like a nurturing type of energy. But that might just be my own trip. I don't know. It just feels that way. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I appreciate you coming in, and I'm sorry about the tech difficulties we had, but it all worked out pretty good. And I look forward to collaborating with you again in 2021. And
yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun talking to you.
Yeah, and if you have anything coming up, you know, reach out to us and let us know, and we'll see if we can collaborate, build some awareness around it. Sounds good.
Sure.
All right, brother. All blessings. All blessings to you and yours. You take care.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.